Welcome to this very important Monday Tesla trading update. Today, we are going to take a little bit more of a strategic look to an enormous opportunity that opens up potentially over the next 2 months. And before I jump into that, I want to take you on a little excursion into the world of options to explain why knowing the future and predicting it on a more reasonable, lower timescale is so profitable, because it's not always clear to everyone. So let me dive right into a little model I created here that is very specific on for our case. So in this model, I'm assuming that we have $100,000 in capital. So let's describe that as the super high risk capital you can deploy. Maybe it's 10,000, maybe it's a million, whatever it is. You can do the math. I use 100,000 as a reference model. Believe, or let's simulate that we have a move in the stock price of 100. I will get to this in a minute, because if we can predict certain catalysts coming in the next 2 months at some specific point, for example, the announcement of a new Model Q or the affordable model with a launch event, for example, that move can easily happen from whatever it is right now, 338 to 438, right, to 440. So these are all just assumptions. It doesn't matter if it's 80 or 120 move or whatever, 60, you will get the point. Now, what I did here is I listed different options, literally, of things you could do with your $100,000. Let's start with your stock, right? If you invest $100,000 in Tesla stock because you believe there's a great catalyst coming over the next 2 months, you will invest, you will buy 296 stocks at a total value, of course, of $100,000. And if that move actually happens, right, this moves from 338 to 438, you will have made 30% in gains. You will have a new portfolio value of $129,000. Let me make this bold. You are at 100,000, go to 129,600, so roughly 30% gain by predicting this correctly and investing everything in Tesla stocks here. But if you look at calls, if you instead, because you have such a high level of certainty, don't do it if there's no certainty. But if you predict something correctly and see that move coming, and that move comes in a reasonable time frame over the next 2 months, you bought a call option with September expiration that currently costs you $18 premium, right? So break even is at 518.38 in September. You can buy 58 of these things, right? This is simple math. You take that capital divided by that price times 100, because it's 100 contracts, and you can buy 54 contracts, equivalent of 5,400 shares, compared to 296 shares. So this is way more shares. Then you have something called the delta for the options, which tells you if the stock goes up $1, how many dollars does the option go up? And the answer is 41 cents for this one. So you can see all these. So as a rule of thumb, it's always below 1, it's always above 0. And if this is more, expiration is closer, the delta goes down a little bit, premium goes down a lot, right? So I listed the comparison prices here for the different calls. So $500 strike price, expiration in June instead of September. You only pay $8 instead of $18. What does it mean? It means your $100,000 doesn't buy you 54 contracts. It buys you a crazy 124 contracts, which is the equivalent of 12,400 Tesla shares. So that is called leverage. So instead of having 300 shares roughly, you have 12,400 shares equivalents, right? The delta is a little lower, so it's 0.3. And the delta I calculated at $400. So the delta is a very complicated thing that changes all the time, depending on time, expiration, and especially on share price. So I'm taking a delta of, at the share price is 400 as the median between these two targets, right? So if you go up more, the more you go up, the more the delta goes up, the more the share price goes up, because you can do the math, right? If you would have basically a strike price of 100 and the share is at 400, your delta is probably 1, more or less, because you're so deep in the money. So That's roughly your math, and then you can compute the price after the move, right? So this goes, if there's a 100 move, a $100 move up to 440 roughly Tesla, then this goes up from $8 to $38 roughly. More importantly, you see your portfolio value right here. Your portfolio value goes up from 100,000 to 130,000. But with the most aggressive option, most dangerous option, it goes up to $471,000. That is roughly what? $340,000 more you make for that call. So basically, what I'm saying here is understanding options and making the right bet on options makes you much more money. So you make 372% your money. It's 372% more money. Here you make 30% more money. That is why it's worth using options if you have this high level of confidence. Of course, if the stock stays below 500 and you're dumb enough to keep these options, they all go down to zero. So instead of making 30%, you lose 100%. So of course, it's very dangerous. And you shouldn't randomly do these things. But it informs us why this is such an important tool. Now, all of this options talk comes down to something that people who are options traders often forget. I think Chris Camillo said that once. He made so much money with options. He said the trick about options trading is that options and the whole mechanic and the deltas and the gammas and all these Greek letters and all these complicated mechanics of the options don't really matter, right? Because it doesn't even matter. What really matters is you need to be able to predict the future with high certainty. And that is, I think, what is so important right now, that we are maybe entering a period where predicting the short-term future becomes more possible than it normally is. And if that's the case, I just demonstrated to you on the options case that investing our minds, investing our dialogue here, and investing, a lot of time and focus on that question is actually worth it. And my appeal to you, especially you guys who are in the reality engineering group on X that we opened for Tesla trading, where we want to generate alpha, now is the time to put our minds and focus to work. And a lot of beginners say, oh, I have a job, I have this and that, I can't focus. Okay, I just explained to you that putting your mind to work and developing very high conviction trades and being right on these trades, on these predictions, what's going to happen, is going to pay you, if you have $100,000, it's going to pay you $300,000 in 2 months or $150,000 per month. So the question is, do you make that much money in your job? Maybe you do. Very lucky, right? Maybe you make 300,000 in 2 months, times 6, what is that? 1.8 million a year. Well, then maybe your time is better invested working. Even though it's very likely if you make 1.8 million a year that you do not have 100,000 in your high risk account, you should have way more. And then, of course, I'm right again that you should focus on that. So what I'm saying is, let's understand that these trades are tremendously powerful and we should invest a lot of time and focus on it. And the people among you who say you cannot predict the future, I've proven you wrong multiple times. Many people have proven you wrong multiple times. You can predict the future. You just have to be very smart, very cautious, and you have to put the right level of risk and conviction on each of your predictions so you understand what level of certainty you actually have for that prediction and then take the right measures. So how do you predict the future? Well, there are basically 3 things you can do. You can focus on technical analysis. I always believed that technical analysis is just a little mental pattern recognition support. It's not a prediction of the future. It just helps you to look at the charts and see, oh, I see 10 scenarios or 3 scenarios that are most likely to happen. I think technical analysis is always important to use. It's a crutch, but it's not a prediction of the future. It's a weak predictor. It just helps you to react faster because you understand what might happen. Then you have macro. Macro, of course, is a very important overriding factor of any technical analysis, but it's very hard to predict that. So macro predictions are a problem. So the most powerful way to predict the future are fundamental predictions. What does fundamental mean? It means Tesla-specific things. where we can triangulate based on some things we hear, some things Elon or Lars or Franz say, so the executives of Tesla, and some leaks that occur, to triangulate what is most likely to happen, and then use our little simulator up here to predict how the market will react to it. So the art of prediction falls into three abstraction layers. The first one is the primary reality we have to predict. The primary reality means what Tesla is going to announce and show and do. Then there's the secondary reality. Once we predict the primary reality accurately, we need to predict the secondary reality accurately, which is the reaction of the markets. So if you say, oh, Model Q will be announced, there will be a launch event announced, then we have to anticipate what that does to the stock, which is tricky. Secondary reality matters a lot. Sometimes you're right on primary reality, but totally judge wrongly what the secondary reaction of the market will be. And then there's, of course, tertiary reality, which is less important for us who have like a base understanding of options. But that means once you understand what's going to happen in the real world, once you anticipate correctly how the markets will react to it, what is the instrument and the trade you're deploying against that? So assume you're right on primary reality, assume you're right on the move, but you're too dumb to put on an options trade, then you also lose money, right? So that's more trivial, but it's important to then execute accurately your trade to reflect your convictions on primary and secondary reality. So let's get to the most important piece, primary and secondary reality, and why I'm so convinced there might be a killer trade waiting for us. So that 100-point move, under what circumstances would that 100-point move happen for Tesla? By the way, I'm not talking about a 300-point move, which might happen when Robotaxi launches and Wall Street sees, oh my God, the dollars are rolling in and that thing scales like crazy. That's a $300, $400, $500 move. But I think it's impossible that that move happens before June. So we are focusing here on the next 8 weeks. Here is what I think. I think the affordable models are kind of a big deal. I think they're a big deal because when you think about Tesla's core business, obviously the affordable models could be a total game changer and bring Tesla into that next phase where they, instead of selling 2 million a year, can sell 5 million a year. That is a very big deal because everyone understands that. There's no analyst who wouldn't understand that. Everyone who is an analyst agrees on this inflection point of sub $30,000 cost cars that they will grab much more market share. And everyone has a base conviction that Tesla is a very powerful brand that will sell a lot of these cars. So we have to now think about why the next 8 weeks and what is the timing on this and what are the different scenarios we are dealing with. And I will have more videos in the future on this because this video is not conclusive, but it lays out the basic framework of this strategy. So our job is now on a timeline to predict what catalyst could happen at what point and how do we maximize our conviction. So what is that affordable model? We know from what people say, including Franz and including Lars, the VP of engineering of Tesla, that there will be multiple affordable models. We know that they are coming mid of this year, right? That they are currently preparing scaled production. And we also know that no one knows what these variants are right now. There's complete silence around it. And I think our first job is to process how much of a big deal is this? And the second question is, will it be announced? Will there be a launch event or will it be just a silent launch? Now, here's my thinking. Here's how I think around this. I do think there are more variants coming than people think. Because if we reason from basic first principles, we know there will be a disruptive mass market new affordable model that comes at some point in the future, right? It's very likely based on Robotaxi. We know that because Elon said it in 2023 and also in 2024, there will be an affordable model based on Robotaxi. At least that was the plan. We also heard end of last year that this model will be postponed in favor of some intermediary model that is somehow based on Model 3 and Y, or at least on the production lines. So these are contradicting informations, right? Is it a new robotaxi-based disruptive model, which in my opinion would meet all the criteria? There would be a big launch event, it would be disruptive and amazing, and the stock would immediately go up a lot. I think would go on $100 plus run for sure. The problem is, it seems like this is not the thing that is the next iteration of this affordable model. Then we have the Model 3 and Y variants. Now, we kind of know that something is coming. We kind of know this is the next thing that is coming. And we kind of know it has to come kind of now, because we know it's being launched in H1 2025, which is only 4 months, less than 4 months left. And you have to launch these things. So here's what I think. I think this Model 3 and Y variant, the first question is, how much is that just a variant versus a new model? Why is it important? Go on the extreme. There's a spectrum of stock catalyzing drivers, right? On the one extreme, we have the most bullish scenario that Tesla comes out and says, hello, everyone. We invite you to a launch event on May 15th, right? And you get the invite now, or like in 3 weeks or something. There will be a big launch event. Hint, hint. The launch event comes. They say, there is a new affordable model manufactured on Unboxed on a new line together with Robotaxi. Why do I think that's a big deal? Because that would be a surprise to the upside. That would mean, wow, they are actually merging Robotaxi with this affordable model. That's huge news. That's a very exciting new model that the entire world will pay attention to. There are synergies with the Robotaxi Cybercab launch. Everything is perfect. It is perfect because that will boost the stock like crazy when this announcement comes, the event. And if the announcement of the event indicates these things, then the announcement will probably initiate that run. On the other side of the spectrum, you have the lamest solution, that Model 3 and Y variants are these affordable models that literally use the exact same chassis, everything the same. They strip it out of the leather, like these synthetic leather seats, and make them textile seats. They take out some knobs or something. They give it a smaller battery and weaker motors, right? And less paint options, whatever. And no glass roof, whatever. So they save $3,000 per model. I think that's the max you can save for this strategy. And there is no launch event because they're so embarrassed that say, oh, just put it on the website and say it's 29,000. Probably they can't make it 29,000. It's like 34,000, but after incentives, you get it to 29. And no launch event, just sneak it in and let it run. These are the two extremes. Why are they extreme? Because I think they're both unlikely. The Robotaxi situation would be so bullish, everyone would be happy. But we have a lot of indications that this is not happening because, you know, they said it's going to be kind of based on the existing infrastructure and so on and so forth. And then the other thing is so lame that it would drop the stock. If that is the solution, I think the stock would drop on that news because it would be a huge disappointment. Now let's think. We have the extremes now. What options in between on this continuum do we have? And this speculation will be very important. So first of all, what do smart people say? I want to first go into a quick share of the survey I did. And then I will go into AJ's take. AJ is a very important analyst, also another fellow German, but who is very specialized on cars. And I want to first show you, and then I will comment what I actually think. But let's show you my survey that I did with you guys, where we ask everyone what they think about this whole situation. And this is what people think. Look at this. I asked you, what do you think is this affordable model, the Model Q? Is it a Model Y stripped down? So 10.6% said yes, it's just the Model Y stripped down. Stock goes down. Then 9.9% said it's a Model 3 stripped down. So together we are talking about 20% of you think it's a Model 3 or Y stripped down, which I think is bearish. If that comes out, the stock will drop. Definitely not go up. Now, 30.4% believe it's a new body on the Model 3 or Y platform. I think that is actually way more likely. That would actually be, depending how they handle it, if it's an exciting new body, if there's a launch event, I think this could drive the stock for sure. But then interestingly enough, 50% said it's a Robotaxi variant. which I think would be enormously, enormously bullish, because that signals to the market there is a new transformative platform of Tesla that is pulled forward. The Robotaxi platform that builds both Cybercab and the affordable variant. I think there are many, many reasons why this is hyper bullish. That would imply huge new manufacturing efficiencies, huge economies of scale by merging Cybercab and the affordable model into a singular platform, as always planned by Elon, by the way. So both of these are bullish. It's an 80% chance based on the survey that it's bullish. Now, the interesting thing is that AJ also says, and I can't show that. I talked to AJ and, he said I shouldn't share anything that is only for subscribers, so that's fine. But the interesting thing is that AJ says he's very convinced that the new affordable model will run on Cybercab platform. So that's very, very interesting. And if you look at Cybercab, what's so interesting about that thing is it's amazing and it's beautiful and everyone would love to buy this thing for themselves. So I'm actually sharing that conviction absolutely with him. I share that conviction that the Cybercab is what we are looking at, because it just makes no sense that it's not the Cybercab. I think the affordable model must be based on that thing one way or the other. Think about it. If you're Tesla and you're manufacturing now Cybercab, you don't know exactly what the demand will be. And we actually have also one more interesting thing that I will go to in a second, where I found a very interesting tidbit from Lars, the VP of engineering, from yesterday, right, from Sunday. And that's very important to know. I think the Cybercab, think about it, offers all kinds of things that the affordable model also has to offer. So the Cybercab, look at the size. I asked Grok about it. I will go into this in a separate video where we go deep into the engineering basics of the Cybercab and a joint production line and what Grok actually thinks. This Cybercab is designed to also have a 4-seater option as a platform. As you can see here, you pull the seats a little forward, you put 2 seats in the back. It's very easy, if you do steer-by-wire and brake-by-wire, to also put in a steering wheel and pedals. It's very easy to make it see-through in the back instead of this metal thing if you want to have a driver in there. The advantages of merging these two platforms are just completely exponential. If you go full on into Cybercab production, how would you not put the affordable model on the same platform? How would you not leverage these synergies? I think it's a complete no-brainer to do that. Now, there are some arguments against it, that basically Tesla or Elon and everyone in Q4 said that's not the case and they want to use the existing lines. But who says that Cybercab is not built on the existing lines? And I also dug deeper with Grok into these engineering questions. And it says, oh, it's the Unboxed production line and method. It's completely new. It's a revolutionary. Of course, we know this is all a little BS and a little exaggerated. Unboxed is just a marketing term by Elon that just describes something that is used all over the auto industry. It's a parallel manufacturing process where you manufacture in modules and then plug together the modules. I mean, this is not a new invention. A lot of people do that. Volkswagen does it. Everyone does it all over the place, right? It's not new. I mean, it's kind of new, but a lot of people already use it. So the difference between conventional manufacturing and unboxed manufacturing is not, it's a sliding scale, and I can guarantee you Model X and Y, Model 3 and Y are already using some unboxed components. Cybercab will use some unboxed manufacturing methods, but also conventional methods. There's not even a difference. It's just more modular. And of course, you can take it to the next level. But, all these things are not as black and white as it seems. So I think they pulled forward Cybercab from the original plan. They pushed back the affordable model a little bit. And there could be a beautiful convergence of these two. I'm not completely confident about that prediction, but I'm getting more and more confident about it. And that would be insanely bullish for the stock. We will go into that more in a separate video. This is a debate that is not finished yet. I have not complete conviction about it, but I'm gravitating towards that direction. Now, the next question is, and I will share this little tidbit now. The next question is, when do we expect announcements? Now, if this is true, and there is some Cybercab Model Q correlation in the launch, and I think this is not the most unlikely thing, and the deployment and manufacturing starts in Q3, then the announcement, the launch event will be a month or 2 months before manufacturing and has to allow to avoid an Osborne effect to immediately order. But I can see a 2 months order delay, right? You allow everyone to order and you start delivering 2 or 3 months later. If that is in Q3 in August, September, you can pull it forward and see in June could be this launch event, maybe in May. And if it's in May or June, then the announcement of that launch event would probably be at least 4 weeks previous. So then you're talking about April or you're talking about March. At least it's not unlikely. There's an aggregate probability of that launch event. And so, that's where my mind is right now. And if you further triangulate this, if there's any announcement of a launch event with the implication that there is a new affordable model that might be more disruptive than just a 3 or Y variant, that will send that stock on a run up. Our mission now is to figure out if that is true. And before I go into my final appeal to you guys, what we do next, I want to share this audio and video with you. Where we
What's next? Are you going to start working on now?
Oh man, I think we got a lot of work to do over the next couple of months with Model Y to get it back up to ramp. So that's like on my mind all the way. That's why I'm here in Berlin with you. It's like this first factory to change over. I guess technically, maybe Shanghai
did it first, I think.
Yeah, like 9 out.
So this is Lars, by the way, VP of Engineering.
Monday.
He knows
But
everything.
Monday in Shanghai is before Monday in Berlin, right? Like,
it's like
so he was asked here by what is this thing 4 hours ago or something that came out, and he's asking what's next. And Lars says, well, what's next on my mind is Model Y ramp. That's top priority for engineering right now over the next weeks.
I think they were a day earlier, but yeah, so that's like consuming a lot of our brain power. But then, we have Semi and Cybercab coming like really soon. The factory for Semi just got done and, closed the doors in Reno. We're putting the equipment in. Same thing's happening in Texas for Cybercab. There's a lot of new vehicles coming.
So wait, this is very important. He says Model Y, and he says now Semi, that no one even talks about. I don't think Wall Street really gets it. And he says, and then there is Cybercab coming very soon. Cybercab coming very soon in Austin. Now you have to understand this guy is not necessarily the guy in charge of just launching robotaxi service. He's the VP of engineering. He's the hardware guy. So that's just more confirmation that on his mind, what is the top priority? Getting the Semi factory, in Nevada up and running, the factory of production of Semi, but also in Austin to get the Cybercab production up and running. So this is a very, very important hint we get here from the VP of engineering. If he says top of mind is very soon Cybercab hardware production ramp, that sounds more bullish. That sounds much more bullish than most people think, because most people think, oh, there will be a launch of robotaxi services. They will have 10 prototypes or 20 prototypes. Do you think if they build 20 prototypes, the VP of engineering makes this a top priority? No, he's not even involved in some prototypes. They're talking about scaling production for Cybercab. And if they scale production for Cybercab, what are the odds that they're betting everything just on demand for Cybercab? That's not even, the robotaxi network is not even launched. No one knows how this goes. I think these are little hints that it might be a bigger deal than people think in the short term to scale the Cybercab platform on a manufacturing level.
In that regard, we've got the new lower cost models this summer. It's like just there's a lot of changes going on at Tesla this year in terms of our lineup, and it's hard to like keep it all straight.
But it's exciting.
It's super exciting.
Now he said also the new lower cost models for summer. I mean, it's February 24th, 23rd when that aired, I think, or 22nd. He's talking about summer, scaling the affordable models. He's the VP of engineering. So what do we take away? He confirms Cybercab in Austin is top of mind, the manufacturing scaled, and the affordable models. I'm not saying I know what that means, but it's a very interesting fact that Lars mentions these things. So what does it all mean? You know now what roughly my focus is here. And I think our job as a community who wants to generate alpha and wants to be the best Tesla traders in the world, our reality engineering group on X, link in the description. If you're not a member, apply, because we are sharing a lot of thoughts. It's of course free, but we like you to have 500 shares of Tesla at least. So what we should do now Now that I made my case why this is worth so much money to get this right, this is an intelligence game. It's an intelligence game to predict the future. We need to put our heads together and speculate and grab every piece of information we can get on X or on the ground. If you know anyone at Tesla, if you know anyone else who knows something, this will be our job for the next 8 weeks. The faster, the better, because we don't want to miss it. So we need to understand exactly what's going to happen. We need to understand what type of model actually gets launched, when, will there be a launch event, and when will be the announcement of that launch event. And we can triangulate reality and the future very well. We don't need to know when they announce it. We need to know, for example, what is the latest they have to announce it, right? And what is the earliest? Then you have a time span. If you give me a 99% certainty that the announcement of that launch event will happen on a 6-week time span, that's all I need. That's all I need for putting on enormously valuable trade. And of course, the conviction that this launch event will be about a robotaxi-based Model Q. So we need to knock out each of these conditions one after another. We have to understand what actually will happen. That is a very big deal. We have to then anticipate when will be the launch event, and then we have to anticipate when is the announcement of the launch event, and we can triangulate that sufficiently. 6 to 8 weeks time span, high confidence interval, and we win. So that's our mission now. I want all of you guys to first sign up to the group, share your insights, and let's create an intelligence apparatus here that allows us to predict that thing with high confidence. And we will have these discussions to understand if we actually have a high confidence or not. So I hope that was helpful. It's going to be very, very exciting. And these are very important trading periods. So see you very soon.